What do you do now? How do you actually start this process? You know that this is what you want to get to, more or less. You know what you want to see happening. What do you do next? The very first thing you need to do is actually research the market. Try and understand, for one, what are you playing with? Is it going to be an easy sell? Do people in India actually love football and you don't have to do much for them? Or is it going to be a bit of an uphill battle? So maybe you need to start benchmarking yourself for beginners, right? You need to know where you're at currently, and then knowing where you want to get to starts making that whole journey a little bit more sensible. Because if you know where you want to get to and you're already here, it's just a very small incremental step. But if you're way down here to get to up there, it's a lot bigger journey. So benchmarking, understanding where your market's at currently, should be your first step. Because if you don't know where you're beginning, you don't know how hard you have to work to get to the end. What tools do we have to use that, to get that information? Google has a fantastic little thing called Google Trends. Yeah. Have you used it? Yeah. It's a great indicator. It's free. It's simple. All you do is pop in a few keywords and it tells you the sort of trends in search results for those keywords. Trends in searches for those keywords over as long or as short a period of time in each market. We've looked at Indian interest in football out here for the last 5 years. What do you think happened here?
World Cup.
Yeah, World Cup, and 4 years of nothing in between.
World Cup would be a good place to advertise for it.
If we had that option. There isn't one in the next 12 months. Damn it. Yeah, but the point is, this looks fairly normal, right? People do get football crazy during the World Cup. Searches go right through the roof, and then people go back to being sensible about football-ish. I just came on a train with a bunch of, I don't know, were they PSG supporters? And they were going mental. Someone actually got up and told them to get off the train. And I was like, oh my God, this is not going to end well. But they were nice about it. So, but anyways, I digress. This is a nice starting point. It shows you what's interesting. What is even more interesting is when you then compare it to cricket. And you know that huge spike which you saw, and it looked fantastic, how much people loved World Cup? Yeah, that's about as much as they love cricket at its least in India. So this starts telling you what you're playing up against. At its absolute best, cricket in India was about 20% of what, football in India was about 20% of what cricket at its best is in India, right? You start getting an idea of what sort of playing field you're up on, where you're at, where you actually need to be getting to. You then start looking at your own audiences. So it's what I talked about earlier. UEFA already has information on people visiting from India, also people visiting from all over Europe and the rest of the world. It knows what the average football enthusiast actually likes, what other things these people are interested in. So you're looking at your own Google Analytics, and Google Analytics has something called audience interests, audience affinities. Do you know what Google Analytics is? It's the visitor tracking software from Google, which a lot of businesses use. It's free. There's a paid version, which is interesting and gives you a lot more data, and is used by very big businesses that have lots of traffic. But otherwise, I think up to 1 million hits a month you get for free. 1 million or 10 million, I can't remember. So Google Analytics already has that data, and it's telling you people who come to UEFA are outdoor enthusiasts. They're health and fitness buffs. They like movies. They're TV lovers. Some of them like technology. They're sports fans, kind of duh. You would have thought that would be higher, wouldn't you? Kind of surprising that that's so far down. News junkies, avid readers. That's an interesting one. Travel buffs, shoppers, yeah, that's kind of okay. Auto enthusiasts, that's also not a big surprise. But this starts telling you interesting stuff about your audience. It also helps you a lot when you're launching into a new market, because now you suddenly can say, okay, there's not a lot of football enthusiasts in India, but I know that if I start targeting these sorts of people, if I start targeting people in India who love the outdoors, who love health and fitness, who are sports fans generally, I can start building up some sort of awareness. Whereas if I look at people, say, who like cookbooks, I'm probably not going to get very far. Or people who are, I don't know, interested in corporate mergers and acquisitions, might not be the best audience to go with. So you're starting to form a profile about the people who you would want to target. And you can also start thinking about, what am I going to say to these people, right? You can then start looking at things like Twitter. And we'd look at Twitter and go, right, when we search for something like football, what else do people who tweet about football like to tweet about? And so even if we don't have a lot of football interest in there, we might be able to find people interested in other things, people interested in brands like Nike or Under Armour, people interested in Adidas, big football lovers. You know, you can start finding ways and means to reach an audience which you haven't got a core followership on. And you can use all of these ideas to start then building up what your campaign strategy needs to be. All of this data guides you. You could just sit in a room and brainstorm and get ideas, or you could take data and then brainstorm about how you'll target these people. What makes a difference today is when you use data to guide your marketing strategy right from the start, you allow yourself to start on the right foot, as against going out there and just say, yeah, I think this. Because I think this is subjective. The data is telling me this over millions and millions of people is verifiable, it's auditable, and it's real. What do you say to these people?
I mean, maybe first you need to know what the main message the UEFA wants to get across to their customers.
There's something even before that. I mean, yes, the main message is important. I think the main message is given to us in the brief already. It is watch the UEFA 2020. It's as simple as that. You know, that's your main message. But there's something more fundamental than that, which you need to decide before you say what you're going to say.
We are UEFA. This is who we are.
No, it's actually not about what you're going to say. It's about where you're going to say it, right? Before you decide what to say, you need to actually think about where you're going to say it. Because the platform and who you're going to say it to are going to be key differentiators of your message and how you say it. If you're on YouTube, you'll be saying something different than if you're on search, which is going to be completely different from what you say on Insta, which will be different from what you say to 45-year-old men on Facebook, which will be again very different from what you say to 15-year-old girls on Snap or wherever else. So where you're going and who you're speaking to is what you need to determine first, and then say, okay, on this place, this is what I'm going to do. So where would you be? I've given you a few ideas, right? Facebook, yeah.
I'd say two things. Traditional media, which is on billboards, on the street.
They're out of scope, remember?
But I mean, because we're focusing on the target market is what I thought would be.
Out of scope.
And the second thing would be advertising during the breaks before movies.
So again, it's online only.
Yeah.
So it would have to be movies consumed online. Yep. But possible. YouTube.
Google search for people who are searching for outdoor activity.
Potentially. You'd find that very difficult, but Google search is an option. I've put Google out there. Yep. Gmail. Would you want to advertise on Gmail?
Usually it just goes to spam and people don't even watch when they see an email. When they see an unfamiliar one, which is not a friend, a worker, mate, or...
Possibly. You could try things and it might work. It depends. It's a bit of a yes-no one. And we'll come to how we handle the yes-nos. What about Instagram? Yep. Facebook,
Medium.
obviously. Snap.
Is it big in India? I don't know.
Good question. You'd need to find out and see how big an audience you have.
Well, on Snapchat now, they have all the stories from the businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so like Sky News has a story that I follow on Snapchat.
Yeah.
And so you could do a story like that for UEFA.
Potentially. The first question though is your audience on there?
Right.
Right? You have to answer that. So you start looking at all these channels and you start going, is my audience on there? Yes or no? If they are, then yes, you want to use it. If they're not, no.
Can we do it on news channels?
Yeah, that's a good one.
India.
So what, these places,
India.
your online media, right? Your news channels, your sports channels, your Bleacher Reports and your ESPNs and the Hindustan Times and Cricinfo and all of those places. Those are all great online channels where a lot of information about sports and news and stuff gets consumed. Even more so maybe than on Facebook and Snapchat at times. So those are obvious ones that you need to be looking at.
Like on YouTube, all football highlights are always there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at tendencies, regardless of what sports you follow, if you look in tendencies, you always have soccer or football, as you call it. So I would say YouTube is one of the best choices.
Definitely. YouTube is right in there. YouTube would be a big one. And video views, yeah.
You meant all of them.
Well, the answer actually is we don't know right now. What we have to do is two things. One, find out if the audience is on there. And if they are, then yes, you start with them. And two, you have to see once you start doing it, whether the audience is actually doing what you want them to on there. Right? Very often with marketing, you won't know the answer till you actually do certain things.